Good morning, everyone. I have the pleasure of introducing our next speaker, Enes Kanter Freedom. Freedom is a human rights activist, NBA star, and Nobel Peace Prize nominee who lost his NBA career for speaking out against China. Raised in Turkey, Freedom began to call out human rights violations by the president of his home country. Turkey then canceled his passport, imprisoned his father, and set a $500,000 bounty on his head. After fleeing, Freedom was nearly kidnapped by the Indonesian government with intentions to send him back to Turkey. Later on, he barely escaped police officers in the Romanian airport. In 9 years, Freedom received 12 arrest warrants and countless death threats. After debuting his anti-CCP shoes, every Celtics game was banned in China and Turkey. He was then traded to the Houston Rockets and waived. The NBA is reluctant to sign him for speaking out against China. Freedom has spoken out for the rights of Uyghurs, Tibetans, Hong Kongers, Taiwanese, and others facing Chinese oppression. He has become a voice for the oppressed worldwide. 7 years after having his Turkish citizenship revoked, Freedom became an American citizen and legally changed his last name to Freedom. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Freedom.
I just want to say, I hope you guys are NBA fans, basketball fans. If you guys are Warriors fans, I'm not cool with y'all. I just wanted to say that. But so this is my first time attending this beautiful event. I'm really excited about it. I was just keep hearing about this beautiful event, but I never had a chance because I was playing basketball. And for unfortunate reasons, my career is over, you know, and now I go around and do these things and meet with people like you guys. I actually want to start with my childhood, because my childhood, I grew up in Turkey. And, you know, in Turkey, you live in a very different kind of environment. So I remember, you know, growing up in Turkey, if you're a politician, you do a couple things to be elected again. You attack America and you attack Israel. So just because of the base is so uneducated, right? The base is so uneducated, they're like, wow, look at our leader. He is standing tall against America. He's standing tall against the Jewish people and Christian people, so let's vote for him. So a lot of people actually are using that, unfortunately. So anyway, I remember one day, I'm 9 years old, and I went downstairs to play with my friends. And what I've seen that day just shocked me so bad, right? I still cannot forget till this day. So my friends, who were not even teenagers, they were burning American flags. They were burning Israeli flags, and they were breaking crosses. And I was like, guys, what are you doing? They're like, well, that's what we've seen on TV. We should hate America. We should hate Jewish people. We should hate Christians, right? So I remember they gave me a flag to burn it. It was an American flag, so they gave me an American flag. They gave me a lighter. They said, burn it. So I looked at the flag. I looked at the lighter. I was like, this is not the right way to do it. So I threw it down. I ran upstairs to my mom. I was like, Mom, my friends are telling me to hate America. They were telling me to hate Christian people, hate Jewish people, hate Israel. What do I do? My mom said, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but do not hate anyone before you meet him. So I gave a promise to my mom that day. I was like, Mom, I promise you, I'm not going to hate anyone before I meet him. I was 9 years old. So 8 years later, I was 17. The environment that I was growing up in was getting so toxic. My dad said, enough is enough. You are going to America. And I left my family when I was literally a teenager, 17 years old. I left them, came to America for the first time. I remember my plane was about to land. I am so excited, but at the same time, I'm so nervous because I just don't know what to expect. The last 17 years, the only thing you hear about how evil the Americans are. So anyway, my plane landed for the first time. I am just don't want to talk to anyone. I remember going to a locker room for the first time. Two of my American friends wanted to talk to me. I turned around and left the locker room because I just didn't know what they were trying to do. And later on, they came and speak to me. They said, "Listen, we're not trying to do anything bad to you. We're just trying to make sure that you're okay because we know that you're Muslim. So we just wanted to see if you want to go get some halal food. If you want to go to a mosque, we can just take you." I was very confused. I'm like, what are they trying to do? I remember going to I had a friend who was Jewish, and I remember she invited me over for a Shabbat dinner. I immediately said, no, of course not. I'm not going to go to someone's house who was Jewish, right? And then I remember the promise that I gave to my mom. I called her. I was like, you know what? Okay, I'm coming to your house. So before I went to her house, I called one of my friends who lives in America who's Turkish. I was like, listen, I'm going to someone's house who is Jewish. So if you don't hear from me for the next 2 hours, call the police. Seriously, because I just didn't know what to expect. Anyway, I went to her house. I had one of the most beautiful dinner. We had an amazing time. It was unbelievable. But when I was coming back to my place after the dinner, I started tearing up because I was like, there are millions of kids in Middle East growing up anti-Semitic, anti-West, anti-American, right? We gotta do something about this because they don't even know. If you talk to one of them and say, why do you hate America? Why do you hate Israel? Why do you hate Christian people? They wouldn't be able to answer you. So, and then I remember I'm in the same locker room, and I'm sitting down after the practice, and after the practice, I'm sure a lot of you guys are athletes. We check in our phones and stuff, and one of my teammates was criticizing the president, and this was back in like 2009. And I immediately turned around, and I was like, dude, what are you doing? He said, what happened? I was like, I saw your post on social media. He said, okay. I was like, well, you might be in jail tomorrow. And all my teammates turned around and started to laugh. I was like, guys, what are you laughing at? They said, well, this is not Turkey, this is America. And I was very confused. They were talking about the freedom we have in this country. They were talking about freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of expression, freedom of protest. I literally felt like they were talking to a different language because I did not have any of those when I was growing up. Just a couple of years ago, actually, my manager's wife is Turkish. Her dad liked one of my tweets on Twitter, and he was in jail for 13 days. Think about it. Think about how crazy it is. Yeah. So I went to college in University of Kentucky. I don't know if you're any Duke fans here. No Duke fans. Okay, good. I'm just making sure, right? Because I hate the Duke. Anyway, well, and then I got drafted by Utah Jazz. I played 11 years. For the last 10 years, I talk about the problems were happening in Turkey. There were a lot of problems were happening because, the president of Turkey had a big corruption scandal, and then he started to go around and put innocent people in jail. And that was the first time. That's how my activism started, actually. It was the first time I said something, and it became a conversation in the United States and all over the world because of the NBA platform. The Turkish government actually hated that. They put a lot of pressure on me and my family. My dad was a scientist. He got fired from his job. My sister went to medical school for 6 years. She still cannot find a job, actually, just because I talk about the human rights violations in Turkey. My little brother, I think it was the saddest one, was my little brother, because he wanted to be like his big brother and play in basketball in NBA, but he was getting kicked out in every team because of the same last name. So they had to put a statement out there and said, we are disowning NS. Publicly. The letter actually is still on the internet. So the Turkish government didn't believe that. They sent police to my house in Turkey, and they raided the whole house, and they took every electronics away. Phones, computers, laptops, iPads, because they wanted to see if I am still in contact with my family or not. They couldn't find no evidence, but they still took my dad in jail for a while. So after that, they revoked my passport. They put my name on Interpol list. I literally have a bounty on my head. So if one of y'all turn me in, y'all can get like a lot of money. Anyway, It's the craziest thing. So the last 10 years, I talk about the problems were happening in Turkey and NBA. All my teammates, I'm sure you guys know who I play with and stuff. And the commissioner of NBA, Adam Silver, was really, really supportive. I mean, they texted me many times and called me many times and said, whatever you need, we are here for you. And that actually gave me so much hope. Just 2 summers ago, actually, I was doing a basketball camp in New York. And after the basketball camp, I remember I'm sitting down and taking pictures with the kids one by one. And I remember taking a picture of a kid, and his parents called me out in front of everybody and said, how can you call yourself a human rights activist when your Muslim brothers and sisters are getting tortured and raped every day in concentration camp in China? And I'm still smiling for the camera. I turned around to that parent. I was like, I promise I'm gonna get back to you. So I went back to my hotel after the basketball camp. I started to study about what's going on over there. Obviously on the internet, you can find all kind of news. You don't know which one to trust or not. I called my manager. I was like, I need you to find me a concentration camp survivor. He found me one. It was a lady. We sit down with that lady and had a 1-hour conversation. I was like, listen, what's happening over there? And she was telling me about all the, the torture methods that CCP is doing, all the forced sterilization and abortion. And she was telling me about a lot of other things. I don't want to go in details. But at the end of our conversation, I asked her, what can I do to help? She said, I'm good, I don't need your help. I was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, I live in America. She said, I live a good life here. I am free in this country. I can do whatever I want. I can say whatever I want. Help those 2-3 million Uyghurs who are in concentration camps getting tortured and raped every day. So at that moment, I was like, whatever it takes, I'm just gonna help those people and try to be their voice. So I wanted to do it in a very unique way, because when I was a kid, whenever I watched an NBA game, the first thing I was watching was the shoes. I mean, everyone here loves shoes, I hope, right? Everyone has a favorite brand and stuff. I remember, the next day I was waking up and telling my dad, please buy those shoes for me. So I came up with this idea. I'm just gonna reach out to these artists around the world, right? And who've been oppressed by their governments, and I'm gonna tell them to create these shoes. And put all the struggles and pain and everything that they lived on those shoes. And we're gonna go out there and play basketball. 3 years ago, I remember when they took us to the NBA bubble. I'm sure you guys heard about it. It was all about social justice for them. They were putting all kind of stuff on their shoes, like Black Revolution and George Floyd and all that stuff. And they were putting all these logos on the floor. They were putting all these phrases behind our jersey, which was controlled by the NBA. We couldn't pick what we wanted to pick. I was like, there is no rule against it. Fine. So I remember I was playing for the Celtics, and our first game was against New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden, and opening night. So every celebrity you can think of, everyone was there. The whole world was watching the game because it's the most famous arena, and then you're all playing against the Celtics. Anyway, so I put the shoes on. My first topic was Free Tibet. I'm sure you guys heard about what's happening in Tibet and how much they're in pressure by the Chinese government. So I put the shoes on, I went out there, I started to warm up and stuff, and literally 1 minute, we sang the national anthem, and 1 minute before the game, there was 2 gentlemen who was working for the Boston Celtics, and they were NBA employees, came to me and said, take your shoes off. I was like, excuse me? They were like, yes, your shoes has been getting so much attention internationally, you can now wear their shoes again. It was the perfect moment for me because I was just getting ready for my citizenship test. So at that moment, we are in a huddle. So I closed my eyes. I was like, okay, we have 27 amendments. My first amendment, freedom of speech. I turned around and I'm like, no, I'm not taking my shoes off. So So they were like, what are you talking about? I was like, even if I get fined, go tell your boss, I'm not taking him off. They said, we're not talking about getting fined, we're talking about getting banned. So they were literally threatening me to get banned from the NBA. So that half, I played 0 minutes. I went back to my locker room. I looked at my phone, there was thousands of notifications. I clicked on the one that my manager sent me. He said, every Celtics game is banned in China. So it took them 24 minutes. Think about it, first quarter, 12 minutes, second quarter, 12 minutes, 24 minutes to ban every Celtics game is the rest of the year. So that game I played 0 minutes, which I played every game before that. I played 0 minutes. Obviously, we lost the game. So after the game, the NBPA called me, the Player Association, which I paid thousands of dollars every year to protect my rights against the NBA. They said, you know what you did. You cannot wear those shoes ever again. I was like, am I breaking any rules? They said, no, but you cannot wear them ever again. We've been getting so much pressure from all over the world. So they were calling me once every hour. And it got to a point I was like, you know what? I promise I'm not going to wear free Tibet shoes ever again. They said, promise? I said, promise. So I hang up the phone. So the next game, I wore free Uyghur shoes, right? So they called me after the game. They said, you're a liar. You lied to us. How could you do that to us? I was like, first of all, I never lied to you. I never said I'm not going to wear free Uyghur shoes. I just said I'm just not going to wear free Tibet shoes. So at that point, they understand they're not going to make me apologize or take my tweet down and say I wasn't educated enough or about some of these athletes said it. I'm sure you guys know. So they were losing millions of dollars because last year, more people watched NBA games in China than American population. Think about it. It was millions of dollars. Anyway, after the third game, I remember I spoke about Nike and how they were using slave laborers and sweatshops. And in America, they talk about, Black Lives Matter, or they talk about no Asian hate, LGBTQ community and Latino community, but everybody knows about the sweatshops and everybody knows how hypocritical Nike is. Anyway, if you guys are wearing Nikes, just take them off and throw in the trash. Yes. So, unfortunately, there are 82 companies in America use slave labor. Between the age of 6 and 16, kids in China literally working 16 hours a day and six days a week are in a terrible condition making those shoes. I believe in the one shoes that I think costs around $2 to make it in China, it costs around $400 or $500 in America. So it's a huge difference. Anyway, so after the third game, one of my teammates walked up to me and said, this is your last in NBA, right? You criticize you criticize China, you criticize Nike, you can never dribble basketball in this court ever again. Just keep smile, I hope you win a championship, but this is it. It was so weird because NBA just keeps talking about how much they care about social justice and how we should just kneel and how much we blah, blah. I'm sure you guys know about it. I don't want to say it enough, but it was just so crazy how pretty much they were saying that you are done here because of you wanted to talk about human rights violations and political prisoners around the world. So February came, I pretty much got, everyone knew I played my last game against Brooklyn Nets. We destroyed them. And then it was my last game. And then after that, I pretty much got fired, blackballed, whatever you guys call it. In the last 2 years that I have not played a basketball, what we keep talking about our freedom in this country, right? And when I got fired, I started to study more and more, and I started to ask my question, are we really free in this country? Because when I started to study, I realized that NBA is not the only one. You see Hollywood, you see Wall Street, big tech, academias, some, Congress and local congresses and farmland, many of them is pretty much run by the biggest dictatorship in the world. I just had a hearing in the Capitol, D.C., around 10 days ago. I asked that question to the senators. I was like, Senator, I have a question for you. How can the biggest dictatorship in the world can control a 100% American-made company and fire a U.S. citizen? And they couldn't answer it, So when I talk about the problems were happening over there in China, it was a perfect moment because it happened right before the Beijing Olympics. People call it the genocide games. Forget about my teammates. I literally try to reach out to NFL, MLB, MLS, NHL. I even try to reach out to WWE wrestlers, everybody. Forget about them. I try to reach out to Olympians. I was like, listen, just join me. We'll become, a movement, and we'll talk about, the human rights violations and sweatshops. And this was a non-political issue. They said, listen, man, we love you, we support you. I think what you're doing is so amazing, but we just cannot do it out loud. I asked them why. They said, well, we have shoe deals, endorsement deals, jersey sales. We want to get another contract. I asked them one simple question. I was like, put yourself in their shoes. If your mother, if your daughter, if your sister was in those concentration camps getting tortured and raped every day, would you still pick money and business over your morals, values, and principles? They usually turn around and leave the room. So the last 2 years has been very lonely, very, very lonely. Because when you start to talk about some of those issues are happening around the world, and when that is the biggest dictatorship in the world, people around you is gonna leave you. I played 11 years in NBA. I had hundreds of teammates, hundreds of coaches, so many people from the front offices and stuff. When I got fired, not one of them texted me and said, hey man, good luck with your whatever coming to your way next. Just keep doing what you're doing, because they were scared. They were scared of if I ever do an interview or if I ever do a talk like that, they didn't want me to mention their name, which I would never do without their permission, So, but after that, I come to events like this and see people like you guys who care about our freedom, who care about what we have in this country, who care about, who knows how much how lucky and blessed to be in this country like America. That gave me so much hope for the future. It gave me so much hope and motivation. So with that being said, I just want to say thank you guys for inviting me here. It's been an honor. I was watching this kind of events for a long time, so I'm finally part of it. So I want to say I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that, man.
All right. We're going to be doing Q&A on the right side of the room this time, left of stage.
Okay. I believe you're going to do Q&A, right?
Yep.
Yes. Okay.
Right here. So if you can line up at the back of the room, kind of where we were last night, there should be somebody managing the line back there.
Just not a Warriors fan, please. Don't ask me if you're a Warriors fan. Yes. Love it.
Okay. Line up right back there, back of the room, next to the exits. Thank you. All right. If you can come up and state your name, where you go to school, and a brief question, then we're good to go.
Hello there. I've got a great deal of respect for you for what you've just done. My girlfriend is from the Republic of China, also known as Taiwan, if you guys didn't know that. Just a question on shoes, because it was just a serious topic you was talking about. Thought we could do something a bit more light and breezy. What do you think of minimalist shoes that are foot-shaped and not shoe-shaped?
That are foot-shaped and then not a shoe-shaped?
Yes.
I don't think I've ever heard anything like that before. You took your shoes off. Okay, sure. All right. I mean, I like them. They're very comfortable. Smells a little bit, but I'm joking. But no, I think they're very comfortable. Just make sure that some of those the things that you put in. What do you call it? Yes. So just because, I mean, I think they're very comfortable, you know. But don't play basketball with these; you'll roll your ankle. They're just like walking shoes. Okay.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Interesting question. Okay.
Morning, sir. Thank you for spending time with us this morning. I'm Joshua. I'm from Fresno. My question is about that story you told when you were a kid, 9 years old, and your friends were trying to get you to burn that flag. How did you know at such a young age and raised in that culture that that was something that you shouldn't do?
Well, because my family was very well educated, and they were just keep telling me all the time that do not hate anyone before you meet them, because, you know, once you meet them, then you can decide they're good or bad people, you know? So, and also like burning a flag is not gonna hurt anyone, or it's not gonna, you know, change anything. So I was just very like shocked that why they were just burning flags on the streets. And I was very confused. I was like, this is not a right way to do it. And if you think someone is bad or evil, burning a flag from on your backyard is not going to bring any noise or any change or anything, or it's not going to inspire anyone. So I told my mom, I was like, Mom, like, this is just so weird. They were just keep handing me flags to burn it, you know? Like, what do I do? And she said, well, is that going to change anything? Is that going to inspire anyone? Is that going to bring any kind of real change? I was like, no. I was like, then there's your answer. And also, have you met any American before? I was like, no, I have not. Have you met any Jewish or Christian before? I was like, no, I have not. I was like, well, you meet them first, then you can decide if they're good or bad people, you know? But it's, if you go, I'm sure, I don't know, if you go in Middle East, some of these countries, this is very crazy. Some of these countries, front of classes in schools, they have flags. They have American flag and they have Israeli flag. So if you're a kid, if you don't step on this, you're not allowed to attend a class. Is that crazy? Think about it. If you don't step on those flags, you're not allowed to attend a class. And these are like, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old kids. They don't know any better. But just because of this huge propaganda, just because of the hate speech, just because of the politicians over there, they are the one that are responsible for it. I'm thinking about this, like you're a 10-year-old kid in front of your classroom and they have like 2 flags. And if you don't step on them, the teacher's not allowing you to attend the class. So it's the craziest thing. That's what breaks my heart the most, because there are so many kids growing up in the Middle East. They hate America. They hate Americans. They think Jewish people are the most evilest people in the world. They think the Christians are devil, you know? But you ask them, have you met any Americans or any Christian or any Jewish people? They said, well, no. So that's why it breaks my heart the most. So that's why we have to work somehow to just inspire those kids and put a question in their head. So.
Hi, I'm Andrew Frommel. I'm from the University of Iowa. I was wondering if you've considered taking legal action against the NBA for being wrongfully blacklisted, to bring attention to them being in bed with China and to bring attention to your issues with them and the human rights, and more attention to the human rights violations in China.
So really good question. The last 2 years, the reason I did not want to take any kind of action, I just didn't want people to say that I'm doing this for money, you know? It was so crazy, actually. I was gonna tell you guys a really interesting story. Before this whole China thing, right? When I was talking about the problems were happening in Turkey, one of my biggest supporter was Colin Kaepernick. Me and him actually was really good friends. The day I started to criticize Nike, the day I started to criticize China, I called this guy, I texted this guy, no answer. I was like, really? You talk about social justice, you talk about freedom, you talk about this and that, but now I criticize a company which gives you millions of dollars, and now you don't answer my phone calls and you don't answer my text messages? This guy was like one of my really good friends. And unfortunately, just because of, obviously, you know the deals that he signed with Nike, you know the deals that he signed with Netflix and some of the couple other ones. And now this guy doesn't even return my text messages. He used to send me so many gifts. My house is full of gifts from him. So it's sad. So do I think about taking legal actions? Yes, I do, but it's for the right time. So right now, I think it's a little too early, because when I had a conversation with many of the senators and congressmen, and when I had a hearing, they said, it's a little too early, wait for us to call them for a hearing first. So they're thinking about bringing Adam Silver, the commissioner, they're thinking about bringing the CEO of Nike, and they're thinking about bringing NBPA, the Player Association, to testify before the Congress. So that's what I'm waiting for, because then they cannot lie. So it's going to be interesting.
Hey, hello. My name's Sammy Nevis, and I go to the Emerson College in Boston. Hashtag Go Celtics.
Yes.
So my question is, like, for example, I also play basketball, probably not as well as you, because I'm not 6'10", so you know.
You don't need to be a 6'10" to be a basketball
that must
player.
help.
But you might be a little too old.
Yeah. Yeah, but like, how can I say? Back to my question. So it seems that, you know, basketball is so out of the 4 major American sports, basketball is a sport that, you know, it kind of attracts the most left-wing audience. I would say probably the most right-wing audience is like hockey, probably, you know, NFL, you know, baseball, and then football. It's probably like a little bit more in the middle, but it also leans a little bit more right. However, basketball is like predominantly left-wing audience. So my question to you is, like, why exactly is basketball the only, probably like, you know, probably like the most kind of left-leaning sport, and what can we do to change it, since we are basketball players, even though you're probably better than me?
That is 100% correct. I remember, you know, when I started to talk about, like I said again, problems were happening in China, literally every media outlet in the world wanted to hear me talk. I said, okay, just because of it's a non-political issue, I'm going to go out there and just attend every media outlets. So I wanted to, just because it's a human rights issue, human rights is about politics. It doesn't matter, you're from the right, you're from the left, you have to care about it, right? So I was like, one day I was doing Fox, the next day I was doing CNN. One day I was doing, say, Newsmax, and the next day I was doing MSNBC, because it's a human rights issue. So whenever I remember I attend like channels like, you know, like Fox or Newsmax, I was getting so many like dirty looks in a locker room. And I was like, what happened, guys? Well, it was like, we watched your interview yesterday. I was like, okay. They said, well, we wish that you didn't, you know, go on these channels like Fox or Newsmax. I was like, why? They said, well, because they're right wing. I was like, okay. I was like, I go there, first of all, I go there to talk about human rights and stuff around the world. I don't even talk about politics. I'm not a politician. They said, well, we know, but, you know, still. So I was very confused because I'm not from here, so I just didn't know why they care so much about when I attend some of the other like channels like Fox and Newsmax, whatever. And then I remember before the practices, some of my coaches were coming to me and say, hey man, they were whispering in my ears. They were like, listen, you know, we watched your interview last night on Fox and you were great and me and my family support you. I was like, good, but why are you whispering? And he was like, well, I just didn't want my, you know, other coaches or teammates to hear that, you know, we support you. I was like, that's so weird. And I was just very confused. I think, what do you guys can do to change it? That's an interesting question, because I don't really know, because it's so weird. I was like, I go around because it's a human rights issue, right? And I want every part of the country to hear it. Some people watch Fox, some people watch CNN. I mean, it's their, whatever they prefer, but I go there to talk about human rights around the world. I go there to talk about the genocide happening. But they were just so weird. What can we do to change that? I don't want to say boycott the NBA, because I don't think, I mean, everyone loves basketball. Basketball is not the issue, but I think the mindset, it starts with the commissioner, Adam Silver, then he goes down. I mean, I don't know, I hope there's no LeBron James fans here. There? Love it. So there were like a couple players who are a big problem in the league. I believe once they retire, it's going to slowly start to change. So, thank you, man. Thank you.
Hello,
Hi.
my name is Mary Catherine Avaliotis. I'm from Long Island, New York. And my question to you is, as a Christian, as a Greek Orthodox Christian, the Christian persecution across not only the Middle East, but in China and North Korea is something that I feel very strongly about. So what can we do to raise awareness or help that issue?
So I do work with a lot of Christian organizations. It's very interesting. Around 2 months ago, I actually had a really good meeting with the Pope. I didn't know he was a basketball fan. And I actually have a picture on Instagram. I don't know if you guys seen it or not. He told me I was sitting down, he told me to get up. And he looked up, he was like, how many meters are you? And he was showing like some numbers. Anyway, I think, inspiring kids is the most important thing. So I go around the world. I organize basketball camps for kids, and I bring these kids from all over the world. I organize basketball camps, and I bring Christians and Muslims and Jewish kids, right? And I put them in the same team. And with that, they learn how to share together, how to win, how to lose together, how to communicate together. And also I go around America, organize basketball camps in churches. And it's amazing because just because it's basketball camp, no one can stand against it. What are you gonna say? You're against basketball camps? That'll be a little weird. But I think just working with the other communities, because I know that you guys care about your issue, but what about the other communities? So bring in Muslim communities to support you, bring in Jewish communities to support you. That's how we can solve the problem. So.
Hello, thank you for coming, and thank you for everything that you said and that you're standing for. I'm sure that's been pretty difficult for you. I'm from Utah State.
Oh,
I grew up watching Ennis
Jazz
Kanter.
fan?
Yes, sir.
Okay, love it.
So my question was, you talked about coming here and kind of your distrust, not knowing what to expect in the locker room, etc. I live here. I've grown up an American. I've learned about America's heritage, the Christian Judeo values that America was built on. And it's interesting to me that that fundamental basis of our rights being endowed by our Creator, by God, they seem to be the surest protection for those rights in the world. And I'm wondering, just what are your perspectives on that, coming here? Because in America, we have freedom of religion. You can worship however you want, despite the fact that, from my perspective, it's those Judeo-Christian values that protect everyone else's rights to worship however they want. And with your perspective and your cultural background, what's your experience with that?
So I remember first time coming here, I was just literally scared to ask people about their religion because I just didn't want people to say, why are you asking about my religion? Because it's like that in Turkey, So I started to have conversation with my teammates, but we were really respectful to each other. I mean, I had a lot of questions, why are you guys eating this? Why are you drinking this? Why are you going to church and stuff? So I did have a lot of questions, and just because of they knew how I grew up in Turkey, they took their time. I mean, it literally took me around 4 or 5 years to get that poison out of my body. I was like, okay, Americans are not bad. Americans are not evil. Christians are amazing people. Jewish people are one of the most peaceful people in the world, So it took me a while to get that poison out of my body, but I remember going to Utah, getting drafted by the Utah I was very lucky because, obviously the Mormons over there were so nice and so amazing. I remember, having conversation with them, and I was asking them a lot of questions. But I think the one thing that you guys can do is just, when you start reading about other religions, you can have a better communication with the other side. I remember so many times whenever I was on a team plane or at the hotel, I started to open and start to read about, about Christianity. I remember so many times I was reading Bible. I was reading Torah. I was reading the Book of Mormon. So I can have a better communication with my teammates or with the fans. So I think the one thing that I think we and you guys need to do, just what can we do to understand the other side? Because when a Middle Eastern kid comes here, they were just like me. They think that all Americans are horrible people. But when they meet people like you guys, you know, they're like, wow, you know, what I learned in Middle East was just, everything was wrong. I need to like start over and just started to learn about the world, about America, about Christianity, about Judaism or whatever, you know? So I think the one thing that you guys need to do is just like, just respect the other side. I'm sure you guys do, but read about it so you guys can have a better communication with the other side. So.
Hello, my name is Iranga Ankari from Maryland. As a child of immigrants, I have a question to you on how we can educate people in America who, for lack of a better term, diss America and think this country isn't safe or it's, you know, one of the worst countries around the world.
Good question. So I remember, I'm gonna tell you a story. I remember sitting down in the Celtics locker room and having a conversation with some of my teammates, and they were just criticizing America. They were calling America trash. They were calling, say how horrible that we have in this country, how terrible this America is, right? And I stopped them for a second. I was like, listen, our season is about to be over. And whenever the season over, you know, I will buy your first class ticket. And let's go to some of these countries out there, like Iran, like China, like Russia, like Venezuela, like Cuba, like Turkey. Forget about calling them trash. If you could even criticize them, you and your family members will be in jail and tortured to death. You know, sometimes they just don't know any better because they don't travel enough. Once they travel, once they go to these countries out there, you know, there was this WNBA player called America Trash, and I forgot her name. She was saying how bad we have in this country and Americans trash and stuff. I was like, listen, let's go to Iran whenever your season over. I'm sure you guys know about the women's rights violations in Iran. So just because of they don't know any better, they can call it America trash, but once they go to the other side. So I think the one thing you guys need to do is just educate them and show them about what the other side is about. So just talk about the problems that are happening in Iran and Russia and China and Turkey and Cuba, and they will realize that how blessed we have in this country.
Okay, we'll be taking one last question.
Hi, Enos. Joshua Kalunga. I'm from Fresno State. My question for you is, it's clear that to the public, the NBA and the players, they don't want to obviously get blacklisted. They want to save face. They want to act like they're just woke and everything. But behind closed doors, were they more supportive towards you, towards your beliefs, and they just weren't open the way you were? Or are they the same behind closed doors and in public?
Yeah, we had a lot of conversations about, I remember with my teammates, and I played 11 years. I had, like, I don't want to give names because I promised them. I had so many all-star friends, so many superstar friends, so many future Hall of Fame friends who called me and said, listen, keep doing what you're doing. I had some of the teammates who were with Lakers before, who was, you know, LeBron James's teammate before. And they were even saying, hey man, you know, keep doing what you're doing. Keep talking about Nike, keep talking about China, because no one will, you know? And I was like, I was shocked because it seemed to me, beginning of the season, everyone cared about social justice. Everyone cared about the things that are happening in America and stuff. But when it comes to one specific topic, China, everyone is silent. Forget about the NBA. I had so many actors and singers and rappers reached out to me and say, keep doing what you're doing. But when I said, hey man, like, why don't you just join me? Let's talk about it. They said, well, you know, we have a lot of business over there. We have lots of endorsement deals. We have lots of jersey sales and shoe sales. And if we say anything against the Chinese government, we will lose millions of dollars. So we cannot do it. You keep doing what you're doing. And it was just very confusing, because human is human. It doesn't matter, it's in China, it's in America, or all over the world. You know, we have to stand up for those innocent people. I'm sure if a couple of the players, like Nike players, like say Serena Williams or Colin or LeBron or whoever, stand up to all the sweatshops, Nike will change something. But they won't, because they know that they know that they will lose millions of dollars. So it's an interesting world we live in, literally interesting. But I mean, that doesn't stop people. You know, we just have to keep pushing the good, because it's a good fight. So. We good? Okay, perfect, man. Thank you. Appreciate that, man. I hope to see you. I wish I can say I hope to see you guys at one of my games. It's not going to happen, but just keep doing what you're doing, guys. Love you all. Appreciate it. Thank you.